Hey everyone, so I wanted to do a fairly short video. It's a bit different and it's more for existing business owners. Most of you watching this are probably clients, and I wanted to talk about the topic of profit. So it's what we all get into business for, and I think sometimes we lose sight of actually what we're trying to achieve in our businesses and in our lives, really, because money can sometimes be a bit of a taboo subject that people don't like talking particularly about profit. But ultimately, we want money in our lives to live the life we want. I know that sounds a bit stereotypical, a bit cheesy, but it's not about being greedy, and it's not about just wanting money for the sake of wanting money. It's because it gives you freedom, it gives you choices, and ultimately it can give you a better quality of life for you and your family. And most people that have started their own business, it is generally to have more money and sometimes, or in addition, more time. But I feel a lot of business owners, particularly the smaller business owners, and I say smaller, generally, we're generally talking about a few £1,000, £100,000 turnover, but really within my definition of small business, below a couple of £1 million worth of turnover is really still a small business, and this is still relevant for those sort of businesses. Is as we grow, as we get more money in the business, more revenue, more turnover, we think we're growing, and we are growing in some sense. But at the end of it, in 5 years' time, if you've got no business and you've grew your turnover, but you've not grew your profit, you've got nothing to show for it, because no one wants to buy a business that's not profitable. Everybody wants to, a business that's profitable and a business that can guarantee a consistent income, ideally a passive income. I'll talk about that in a few moments, is way more valuable than a business that has loads of turnover, virtually no profit, and demands all of the owner's time. That's not really a valuable asset that anybody would necessarily want to buy. So you can see I've got the saying there, and it's a saying that stuck with me, and I think it's a good one to be aware of, is turnover is vanity and profit is sanity. So it just kind of consolidates what I've just been talking about, really, that it's all about profit, because that's going to make a difference in your life. And, sometimes I might have to sacrifice profit to grow the business, but you want to be as profitable as soon as possible and as quick as possible and as easily as possible. So, there's a few questions there, floating about the page. Do you earn enough in your eyes? Do you earn the money you deserve, the money you wanted to when you got into creating your own business? If you're 1 year down the line, 2 years, and it's more relevant if you're 3, 4, 5 years down the line, are you now earning what you wanted to earn? Because ultimately it's all about, as I said, making the profit you want for your personal life, to reap the rewards, really. And also, do you put the right amount of hours in? If you're not happy with your earnings, or if you are happy with your earnings, are you working the amount of hours you'd like to be working? Was your plan to be working how many hours you're working? I don't know what your plan was, whether it's to work less hours or to work more. And as long as you're earning the money, it's all okay. But if you're not making the profit you want, plus you're working as much or more hours than you did when you first started the business. So let's say you're still working 40 hours a week, or even 50 hours a week, or even 60 hours a week, but you're not making the profit you wanted, then it's not ticking the right boxes, is it, for your business? I can't answer how you feel about your own business, but what I want to get out of this particular short video is I want you to have a look at your own business and ask the questions to yourself: are you happy with the profit it's making? I'm going to give you some ideas how you can potentially improve your profit. So there's things that are going to make a difference to your income ultimately. So you can increase your revenue, and it's easier said than done. I'm not going to tell you exactly what you can do an action day-to-day basis, how to increase your revenue. But generally, to increase your revenue, you're going to have to sell at better margins, as you can see down here in the sort of pink section. So you're going to have to sell your product, your services, or whatever it is at a better margin. Again, that's easier said than done. Everybody's got competition, and pricing is a completely different topic in itself. I won't go into great detail, but if you can get better margins for your products or your services, that's obviously going to increase your revenue. It's going to make a big difference to your profit ultimately. Sell more frequently. So if you can sell at a bigger volume, Again, sounds like common sense, but these are facts. This is what makes a difference to your revenue and makes a difference to your profit. Ultimately, it's all feeding through to your income. Is to sell more often. If you can sell 10 products a month or 10 lots of your services, if you can up that to 20, then that's going to make a huge difference to your revenue, a huge difference to your profit. There's something which is really important here in terms of increasing your revenue is you need to be ideally using the resources you've already got. If you always have to bring in more resources and more costs, you're not necessarily making more money. If you bring in that, all this extra work or this extra revenue, but you're going to have to bring in all these extra costs that are associated with that revenue because you need more staff, more resources, more products, more materials, or whatever it is, that might not increase your income. So always bear that in mind. If you can find ways of increasing your revenue without increasing your costs, so use the resources you've got, that's going to make a huge difference to your business. That these little differences can make a massive difference to your profit. I mean, the percentages we're talking about, 10% of extra turnover from the current resources you've got can sometimes be 50% increase in your profit. That's the sort of numbers we're talking about. Depends on your business, on your particular sector. So some other ways of increasing your income, which is your profit, you can take out your business, is obviously decreasing your expenses. So the sort of expenses to look at, if you look at your most recent set of accounts, or your bank statements, or your management accounts if you have those, or your bookkeeping system, is what's not essential, what's your non-essential expenses. So there's some things you have to pay for, like insurances and things to run a business, but is there anything that's optional? You look at it and actually you don't have to have that kind of expense. And also what's not revenue generating. If it's not essential and it's not revenue generating, I would seriously question those sort of expenses. Do you need them really? So it's good for everybody to do a bit of a housekeep exercise with the business expenses every now and again. So I've just done something in my business recently, and also my home, actually, also my personal income and expenses. And I've made, and I know it's all relevant for the size of business you have, I've made 11K's worth of savings per annum by doing this exercise. I'm not guaranteeing you can do the same, but whatever it is, it can be quite significant. If you let these expenses just get carried away and you don't really question if they're expenses you need. In my case, a lot of them were software based. We were heavily invested in software with just nature of our business as sort of accountants, business advisors. But there's lots of things which weren't essential and they weren't revenue generating. Sorry about the typos, but I've just noticed it wouldn't be one of my videos if there wasn't some typo on there. So hopefully you can look past that. So, and also, how can you be more efficient? How can you do things quicker, get more jobs done in the time scale? There's lots of psychology behind efficiency. Things like people play around with working hours. In Sweden, they started doing tests with 6-hour working days, and people were just as productive. The workforce was just as productive, if not more, with a 6-hour day compared to like a 7 or 8-hour working day. In the UK, we tend to work more but get less done compared to other countries. That's a fact. If you compare us to Germany and some countries in Europe, they work less hours but get more done. So there's definitely questions to be asked. How can we be more efficient? How can you be more efficient in your business? How can you get more done with the same hours or less hours? It's definitely something to look at. It asks itself in terms of, do you have the right staffing level? Are you carrying staff you don't need to carry? It's easy to be, and I can relate to this as someone who's grown as a business, as a small business. It's easy to get carried away and get excited that your business is growing, your revenue's growing. As I said, turnover is vanity, profit sanity, and you bring in the extra staff because you think, or the time you feel you can afford them. But there gets to a point where you need to take a step back and, do you have the right structure in place for your business? Is it working? Ultimately, is it serving you as the business owner? It's your business. You're not there to, obviously, it's all great and you don't want to let people go, but you're not there to feed other people's bellies. You're there to have to create the life you want. generate the income you want personally. Okay, so I'm not proposing anyone goes away and sacks loads of the staff, but these are sort of questions you should be asking yourself. Are we efficient enough? Do we have the right level of staff? Are they producing enough with the current resources that we have? It's all about getting more from the resources you have, and sometimes trimming the fat to increase your bottom line as well. So in terms of the actions you can take following this video with your business, I want you to ask yourself a few questions relating to your business. Is where can you cut the fat? Is there fat that can be cut? Have you grown and you've got a bit carried away with taking on these extra expenses or these extra members of staff? Where do you feel things should be slicker? You feel that it's taking too long, or too many people, too many resources? And one way of becoming slicker in terms of your processes is technology. So I'm big on business automation, I call it. So implementing processes around software that can free up people's time. If there's things that you feel repetitive, if it's a manual job, then obviously computers can't replace the physical action of using your hands to pick something up or do something physical, maybe in the sort of the trade and construction industry. But if it's labor intensive and it's routine, maybe more admin based, and often there is a way of it being replaced through software or better process. So take a step back and just think, is there anything that feels too repetitive, is taking too much of your staff's time or your time? And also, what do you measure in your business? Do you look at things and think, this I'm not earning the right amount of money, we're spending too much in this area? Do you actually take a step back and look at your bank statements, look at your accounts, look at the targets you're trying to achieve? And that leads me on to the last thing is, do you set targets? Do you set financial targets for yourself, for your business? And I'm not just talking about turnover, but I'm talking about your income, what you're trying to achieve ultimately. So hopefully that's been fairly useful. I've whizzed through the sort of topics I wanted to touch upon, and all I wanted to do today was get you thinking about your business, and is it headed in the right direction, and are you generating the profit that you want to be generating? Thanks guys, cheers.